Okay, welcome everybody. Can the folks on Zoom hear me okay? Raise your hand if you can. Yeah. Okay, very good. So please be quiet. This microphone only works for Zoom. It doesn't make it louder here. This is so the people on Zoom can hear us. And the people on Zoom can only hear, they can't hear you talking. They can only hear if it's but we now a lot of mics to do this. Now, some of you might not be on our email list. If you're on our email list, you will get invites to the meetings and a detailed agenda for the meetings. And you can, there's information here on where to go to the website. So you for the you can be a voting member and a president.
Mila Stegall.
Mila's our secretary.
Jessica Anakar,
Jessica's
secretary.
Okay.
And we have one other who couldn't be here today.
Yes, John Effelter, who is our treasurer. All right, so we're going to get started. There were a few extra agendas on that table out there for those of you who don't have one. And the meeting's being recorded. Okay. So I would just like to mention for the people in Zoom and the folks in person for our meeting attendees. For the people on Zoom, please stay muted unless you're speaking. Sign on with your phone or your computer, but not both. Okay. And the democratic rules of order, if someone would share a link. Oh, they can't, we're not on doing chat tonight. So we use a democratic rules of order. We use a democratic rules of order for our meetings instead of Robert's rules of order. They're much simpler and easier to use, and look how small the book is. So folks on Zoom, please raise your hand with the Zoom button when you want to speak. If you are calling in on a phone, then you'd have to speak up and let us know you want to talk or ask a question. And to unmute yourself, if you're on a phone, you do *6. All those people over there are waiting to come in. And Ben's going to help. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Chairs up here if people want to sit. That way you can hear. Now here, for the folks who are here in the Land Trust building, if you, as I mentioned with the microphones, if you want to speak and you want to have all those people hear you as well, which is really important, you'll need to use a mic. The mic is on when there's a green light on it, and we have quite a few mics, so you don't need to wonder if the mic is on or not. You can see that it's on. And I'd like to remind everybody that the council prides itself on striving to conduct its business in a professional, respectful, and courteous manner. Common courtesy and respect for fellow islanders and guests are expected. Rudeness, personal criticism may be tolerated. So as a result, for this evening's meeting, we will not be using the chat in the Zoom. People, this is a town hall meeting. People will raise their hand and speak into the meeting rather than do comments on chat, with none of you can read anyway that are here at the Land Trust building. So now, I should like to read our land acknowledgement. It's working for Zoom, I'm afraid.
It doesn't amplify.
It doesn't. Come on in. Please come on in. What do you want to do? Okay. This would be the best place, I think, for everybody here to hear me. Okay. So please take a moment of silence to acknowledge and show our respect to the Coast Salish people. We gratefully honor Coast Salish people for their land stewardship and commit to continuing to grow our relationships with them and the lands we now live on. Now we shall approve the minutes of the last meeting. Those of you who are on our email list and are members, this is for the members, got the minutes from our February 15th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Hearing none, I move them as approved.
Right.
Do you see anybody raising their hand? No, hands. No, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hands. Okay. We have guests this evening. We have Washington State Council Member Teresa Mosqueda, King County Council District 8 with us this evening. There she is in the right corner, top right corner. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have Esther Lucero, President and CEO of the Seattle Indian Health Board. Where is Esther? Okay, here's Esther over here. And she has and if her team members could introduce themselves.
I'm Jason Owens. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Seattle Indian Health Board.
I'm Wayne Harvey. I'm a member of the Yakama Nation, and I'm an executive assistant at Seattle Indian Health Board.
Are there any other guests here that I don't know about that are not Islanders? Oh, Bong. Yep, Bong Stodomingo is here from King County. Thanks, Bong. Thank you. Glad you're back from your vacation.
I am too.
Okay, now is just a couple minutes for community happenings and island celebrations. This weekend on Saturday, there is a nonprofit leadership fair. 20-some nonprofit organizations from Vashon are going to be at the high school Saturday, March 23rd from 11 to 1. We will be there too. And the purpose of this event is to provide information for people who might be interested in volunteering, especially at a board level for one of the many nonprofits on this island. And our organization needs board members too. So you'll see me there. Also, April 8th, there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun for some. For us, it will just be a partial eclipse. And for us, it's going to max out at 11:30 in the morning. So now, Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda, you're on.
Well, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. It is wonderful to see you all virtually, and I look forward to being there in person soon. Thanks to Diane for including me in this agenda here today, and thanks to many of you for the conversations that we've had, not only over the course of the last quarter, the first quarter that I've been in office, but also over the course of the last year. I really have appreciated those discussions and all that you've taught me about the priorities for the island, and continue to look forward to engaging with you in this role. As folks know, we started this adventure as King County Council member, proudly representing the unincorporated area of Vashon-Maury Island in the first week of January. And in our first district days, which we are trying to do every other week, our first one was scheduled on Vashon-Maury Island. Very thankful for all who had the chance to schedule us into their busy calendars and come out and learn more about what you're working on and what you'd like to see directly from the county as your direct representative. That was a very informative day and a full day. We are coming back out as well on April 4th and have a full day of meetings, but continue to look forward to scheduling even more, and know that we'll be out there very regularly as well. I'm thrilled about how District 8 days have been informing our policy agenda so far, and some of those conversations don't even begin to get into the topic at hand without talking about the ferries. So I want to thank you and congratulate you all for all of the advocacy and work that you did in partnership with Representative Alvarado, the letters that we have jointly sent in, the coalition on the island, who has been advocating for additional ferry services, and a huge amount of work has gone into elevating this issue around Puget Sound. In fact, the Puget Sound Regional Council this year, for the first time, weighed in with a joint letter from a collective of elected officials across the region, and resulted in $3.17 million from the state legislature going to support expanded water taxi service from King County. That will be a supplement, right? This is a supplement to the additional work and the funding and the strategies that you all have prioritized and elevated in the state legislative session. So a huge amount of appreciation to our 34th district representatives, especially Representative Alvarado for her steadfast commitment to supporting an augmentation of the water taxi services. Of course, Senator Elias and Representative Fay as the chairs and the budget leads on these issues as well have been incredibly supportive, but this work would not have happened without you all elevating the stories about this being both an economic lifeline and a literal lifeline to health and human services across the waterway there. We will continue to advocate not only for the $3.17 million to go for expanded hours and ensure that there's a way to mitigate for the 2-boat ferry sailing service schedule that we know is still inadequate, but as we scale up the options for the Washington State ferry, we also know that King County has a role by supporting, maintaining, expanding water taxis. And what I will continue to advocate for, and thank you for your support and your conversations, which have pushed us in this direction, to make sure that there are additional ways that people can get back and forth from their homes, places of employment to the pier. So we've had some initial conversations both in committee and individually with Metro about scaling up bus services. Of course, that's important and necessary as we want to have people keep their cars at home and take the water taxi. But I also am still strongly advocating for there to be the small shuttle services, the Metro shuttles, if you're familiar with the ones that run along the West Seattle neighborhoods. It is an extension of the water taxi services. You never question whether or not you're going to make your connection on time. They are waiting for you there when you get off the water taxi, and they deliver you to the water taxi in time to make that boat across the waterway. So that's the hope that I have for us to be able to deliver on that. And we're going to continue those conversations so that we can both celebrate water taxi plus the small shuttle services. So more to come on that. If I might, Diane, 2 other issues that I'd love to provide an update on, and then happy to take some questions. We have an incredible team, as I think some of you know, Aaron House, Chief of Staff, Chris Lampkin, Deputy Chief of Staff. Melanie Cray is our Policy Director, and Camila Brown is our Chief Operations Officer. Many of you have reached out to us on a number of issues, And we have heard a lot about the wax orchard site. And thank you for your emails and your calls. We have been responding to those. We have been forwarding those on. And as you heard from the beachcomber, and as we saw the letter from a coalition of folks who've been working on this, and I believe we're going to be meeting with you in 2 weeks as well, we very much wanted to elevate this issue and see if there was a way to mitigate a decision moving forward. It sounded like a lot more conversations were desired on the island. And as you heard, of course, people want to support the ability for people to have a place to bring their dogs that's safe, but having it at the wax orchard site seemed especially problematic. So those issues had been heard, the concerns were raised. And as you know, the Department of Natural Resources and Parks just announced this week that they are going to delay a decision on that. They have committed to doing a write-up on the community engagement and the decision-making process. And we have heard the update this week that the Parks Department is no longer going to move forward with that specific site after hearing from community. And I think that it's a good indication as well that no matter what site is chosen in the future, there needs to be deep community engagement, because we anticipate that there will need to be a lot of reparations for the type of conversations that didn't occur this last time. So that will be occurring in the future. And I really appreciate the direct emails that you all sent to us, and we forwarded those on. And I'm glad that there was a resolution, at least for this location, and we look forward to continued conversation. And lastly, wanted to just flag, we're deeply engaged in the comprehensive plan. I had the chance to join the Brown briefly. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be on that podcast recently. And we talked a little bit about the comprehensive plan, of course, once in a 10-year opportunity to think about how we continue to create the amenities and the housing necessary so that small businesses have a workforce, so that small business owners and entrepreneurs have a place to call home on the island, and that we're creating the ability for more people to have affordable housing and to create more options as people think about downsizing and ways to stay in place in community without pushing more people into forest lands, farmlands, wetlands. And that's especially something that I want to be cognizant about as we think about the unique nature of the footprint in Vashon-Maury Island. We are going to be out in community with members of the central staff team and the department to hear directly from you on 4/4. So April 4th at 5:30. I'm sure everybody's well aware, but please continue to encourage people to come. At 5:30 p.m., the Vashon Center for the Arts is going to be hosting a community engagement opportunity to hear directly from you about things that you would like to see in the comprehensive plan before it advances. So as you know, the Executive Constantine transmitted a draft proposal. It's now up to the Land Use Committee to consider possible amendments. And this is specific to unincorporated areas. So very much at the top of our agenda for making sure that we get feedback and ideas from all of you is getting direction for Vashon-Maury Island and White Center. Those are the two areas that we represent that are unincorporated, and very much interested in continuing to hear from you about what you'd like to see and the vision of how to continue to be a unique place to live, but also have places to live on the island that meet everybody's needs. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I know, Diane, there's probably some specific questions that we can get into if we have time. But we are going to keep coming out there, keep wanting to hear from you and learn from you. I love the agenda that you have outlined for today, and I'm going to stay on as long as possible because we know that all of the things that you work on through the Community Council really center around health, self-determination, stability, and equity. And these are the issues that we continue to look forward to working with you on to uplift. I've been very inspired by our conversations that we've had with Seattle Indian Health Board, with the board of, with the hospital district and health district out there. And we also know that there's so many more issues that we'd love to learn from you on. So next time we're out, we're going to be talking to folks about food security, small business support, housing assistance, and looking forward to hearing more about how we can support people in arts and culture as well. Thank you again for having me, Diane, and look forward to seeing you all in person next time.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much for that outline and what you're doing. We're so glad that you are our representative.
Thank you.
So now the way we do questions is in this part of the meeting is that we'll take turns. We'll go from a question in the live audience and then a question on Zoom. So you just raise your hand And if someone could help figure out who's next in the room here, because Zoom does that automatically. And you're anxious to get going. You want to give him a mic? Please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Jeff Schnells, and I've been coming to these meetings for several months now, and I've been voicing my concern about the condition of our roads here on Vashon Island. I've talked to you before, Teresa, about the condition of our roads, and I explained chip sealing to you a while back. Earlier this week, I talked to Aaron Moe, our chairman of our road crews, and he told me that a few years ago they almost got the apparatus and the oil they need to chip seal again, but it didn't happen. You know, there was problems with the county; they just didn't come up with it. But anyway, I'm frustrated with the spending I see in King County. This is a brochure I got from Joe McDermott, and in here he outlines over $400 million in special project spending. And I never see a line item for anything on road maintenance. It's non-existent. And for those of you who have lived here for over 50 years, you might remember when the roads were chip sealed. And we used to have very nice roads. But that operation came to an end around about 1980. And that's when we got really big on public transportation. And since then, the road maintenance budgets have been emptied. And
Do you have a question for her?
I don't have a question so much as just, you know,
In which case,
pay
thank you
attention
very
to
much.
our roads,
Thanks.
okay? We need road
We need
maintenance
roads,
here.
okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. And Diane, I'll just say thank you again for that comment. You did mention the chip sealant last time. You know, earlier today, Councilmember Dunn, who is my colleague and represents a lot of the rural community, he mentioned that there was a 4-person fatality accident in his community in Fairwood, and people are there also concerns about roads. So I will reach out, work with my colleagues on council, see what else we can continue to do to address, especially unincorporated area road maintenance and the unique needs on Vashon Island. And as a member of the transportation, economy and environment committee, I'll see what else we can do to elevate that issue on that committee. Thank you so much.
We don't have anyone on Zoom at the moment, so we can take the next question here at the Land Trust building. Just for the council member. Yes, just for Teresa Mosqueda. Well, if this is the case, we're going to be moving right along.
Certainly would ask a question. I'd be happy to ask. Hi, Teresa. Thank you for coming. I know you're new to the county council. You've been in the city council for a long time experience. I'm just wondering if you could speak about this comprehensive plan process that you're in. And I know you hit the ground running with that, with a fully loaded docket and everything. So just was wondering if you could speak to that process and how it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, we are in the middle of the comprehensive plan review process. The executive did transmit his suggested proposal for the comprehensive plan. And you can imagine it is hundreds and hundreds of pages, and a lot of it is alphabet soup to a lot of the community members who I know are listening in and wanting to know what the direct impact is or what the vision is for the future of their community. So what we're trying to do is really make sure that we're not only talking about how we create an inclusive community, but how we create inclusive language to talk about the comprehensive plan as well. Amendments will be due to the chair. The chair of that committee of land use and local services is Councilmember Sarah Perry. She has been incredibly helpful in going out and hearing directly from community members. She will be on Vashon-Maury Island on April 4th at 5:30 at the Arts Center to hear directly from members on the island as well, to hear about their priorities. So please do come and hear the presentation and feel free to engage. You do not have to know the codes, the acronyms, the abbreviations. It's really about how do we create the vision of what growth looks like over the next 10 years. the amendments for the comprehensive plan are due mid-April, and then the chair, Councilmember Perry, will take all of the amendment ideas that she agrees with, roll them up into a striker amendment, and then the committee then also has an opportunity to do amendments to that. So I would say this quarter and quarter two, this is our opportunity for us to really engage and think creatively about what we'd like to see. I would just flag, again, this only happens really once every 10 years. I know that Vashon and White Center, you probably feel like you've done this already before with the sub-regional area plans. But I would say the comprehensive plan is really that guiding document. And if you think about the type of growth that this region has absorbed over the last 10 years relative to the decades prior to that, it's been immense. So as we think about ways to get ahead of the kind of growth in population that we've seen, and the need for us to make sure that there's a place for workers, a place for entrepreneurs, a place for the healthcare providers, the long-term care providers, the child care providers, it's really that visionary document. And please don't be dissuaded by all of the acronyms and abbreviations that are out there. The staff is going to be there, as well as myself and Councilmember Perry. And really, this is an opportunity for people to talk about that vision. But the time is now to engage. April 4th is prior to when amendments are due to the chair, and this will help inform her decisions about what to include in a striker. And then it could also inform our decisions later for how to amend that striking amendment as well. So throughout April, May, and then ideally June, we will be engaged in this process.
Okay. Thank you very much. Susie Murphy on Zoom, would you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your advocacy on behalf of Vashon for the passenger-only ferry. Can you tell us why it's going to be 3.5 months until that expanded service begins? Thanks.
Yeah, I'm happy to weigh in on that. And again, just a huge amount of appreciation for our 34th Legislative District members. Representative Alvarado, I'm sure, joins these meetings regularly as well. So huge amount of appreciation and praise to her. But we all also helped give her the wind at her back to carry that across the finish line, right? So this is really a win that Vashon should own. The reason that the funding is not available, and thus the services, is because it's tied to the fiscal year. They're not on a calendar year for their budget. So the funding is not actually available until July. I think the best that we can do, though, is to get prepared and ready to go the second that money comes into the coffers. And I know that Metro is working hard in preparing, ensuring that there's the workforce ready to go, ensuring that the fleet is ready to go. Those are conversations that we've begun having with them. And I'm hopeful that we'll continue to make progress on this discussion as well around how we can free up some shuttle services. Again, I don't want to make any commitments or promises that will accompany it, but I think we can continue to tell the story that those shuttle services will be an extension of the experience and the reliability of the water taxi. But again, those funds are not available until July 1st because they're tied to the fiscal year for the state legislature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Art Chippendale had a question.
Hello, Councilor.
Hello, hello, Art.
Can you all hear me? All right, I'm going to end up facing that way. So I'm Art Chippendale. I'm the co-chair of the Council's Affordable Housing Committee. And one of the issues that we have here on the island is a lack of affordable housing. Part of that is due to Airbnbs. Now, it's a complicated and sort of a fraught issue, but there are really two types of Airbnbs that we have to be concerned about. And that is not those who live off the island. I tell you, I was a census taker here on the island back in 2000, and I was amazed at how many vacant house doors I knocked on. And I recently saw a census report that we have, of the 5,500 or so houses we have, 958 of those are vacant. Now, a lot of those bring the island on the waterfront. People come, they bought those houses years ago. You know, some of them inherited them from family. And so the question is how do we deal with Airbnbs that people are investing in that affect affordable housing? Because those of the wealthy don't affect us. It's the middle income, it's the low hanging fruit, but those people who have Airbnbs that they're absentee landlords and they just rent them out as month to month as opposed to a regular tenant who needs it. What would you do about that?
Thank you, Art. Thank you for raising this issue that I actually have heard of in a number of places, both in the conversations with you and members of the Affordable Housing Committee, members of the Chamber of Commerce, and small business employers as well. I'll tell the story that I think some of you have already heard, and you might be in the room, the person who told it to me. But often we hear that in the height of the tourist season on Vashon, while the sidewalks might be packed with people walking back and forth enjoying the island, some of the shops might be closed because there was not a worker available to actually help tend to the store and be there in person. And that is a story about the lack of access to housing across the island. And so from my perspective, making sure that we're regulating Airbnbs like we did in the city of Seattle, like other jurisdictions have done, like the county that hosts Walla Walla and Wine Country has done, is really about access to housing and housing opportunities across our communities. That is especially important for an island where you are reliant on a workforce and a community that needs to be able to get to their work and not just reliant on the ferry services. So I'm looking at the comprehensive plan as a potential opportunity for us to address some initial thinking about how to move forward with Airbnbs. I know that there was an initial report that was requested. That's a few years out. I think we need to get that report back sooner so that we can create a work plan to direct our executive branch to come up with a proposal to regulate Airbnbs for council to consider and adopt, not something that we receive in 2026, 2027, or 2028, but really something that we receive next year as soon as the comprehensive plan is done. This is an opportunity for us to meet the housing needs on the community by making sure that the housing that is being built, that we're permitting, that we're allowing for, and the housing that is there is actually going to the community that needs to live on the island. And that allows for more opportunities to workforce, and it allows for more people to stay in place and have a place to call home. So in terms of Airbnbs, we know that there's other jurisdictions to look at. We are putting language in the comprehensive plan through an amendment that we're teeing up right now as a way to advance that conversation. And we've asked our central staff team, who will also be with us out there on April 4th, to look at the examples from other counties. It is possible to do this at the county level. Again, Walla Walla had just recently passed something. So we know that it's a balance, but right now, having seen, as you noted, houses sitting empty when they could be filled with future employees or employers is a missed opportunity, and healthcare providers and care providers. That's similar to the vacant lands and vacant building discussion that you mentioned as well. I'd see them as related, but not exactly the same thing. So we're working on 2 additional amendments. So some of this is like, we haven't daylighted anywhere else, but would love to continue to get your feedback on it. 2 additional amendments that we're considering related to vacant property, to discourage the practice of having empty buildings just sit there and not contributing to additional places for people to live, or creating, negative safety and environmental impacts. We want to address that and see if we can create 2 amendments in the comprehensive plan. So for your consideration, one amendment would be stating that our policy goal is that land or buildings should not sit empty, and that the county should discourage this practice through various public policy avenues. The second is including a work plan item directing the executive to come up with a proposal and specific strategies to implement in the near term, in the immediate, so that strategies to reduce vacant properties and derelict properties can come to council in the very near term for us to consider adopting. Those are 2 amendments on vacant lands, and as I mentioned, 1 amendment related to regulating Airbnbs, so that we can have a suite of recommendations for the council to consider.
Okay, so we only have time for one very quick question and one very quick answer. So Pam Dodrell, you're up. Well, or Pam's husband.
Yes. Hi, this is JP Willett. Sorry, that's Pam the account. So Airbnb is or the regulation thereof is a very important topic to me. And so I'm just wondering if the county has looked at the classification of operating a short-term rental as a business as such, and the zoning implications that may go along with that, because that's something that I see is essentially an innkeeper status for those types of places in what are residential neighborhoods. Has any thought been given to that, or any ideas around that?
I love that angle, looking at short-term rentals as a business and trying to figure out if there's a regulation approach there. Again, I want to note that there's other jurisdictions for us to look at, and that example is something that I can bring back to central staff. I think that the question that I've often brought to central staff is, what can we do at the county level? So I'm inspired to know that there's other jurisdictions in the exact same status that have regulated these, but I will definitely bring back that concept of regulating it as a business as an additional strategy for central staff to look into. And maybe when I see you on April 4th, we'll have some additional information about that.
Thank you.
Okay, this is perfect. We're ending on time. How about that? So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And please do email for any additional questions that we didn't get a chance to get to. Teresa.mosqueda@kingcounty.gov. See you on April 4th. Hi, Dr.
Okay, so I think a lot of people are here for the next part of this presentation. Next, we have the Seattle Indian Health Board. And we're going to have an introduction by Jessica Anakar, one of our board members. And I'm going to turn it over to you to manage this rest of this.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right. Good evening, Vashon Island community. Please join me in welcoming Esther Lucero and the Seattle Indian Health Board. As a welcome and gratitude, I would like to extend a thank you to the Seattle Indian Health Board and the services this treatment center is bringing to our home, and share my personal experience with this treatment. My family has been on the island for 5 generations. My grandfather served in World War II, and every generation since then has been diagnosed with PTSD. When I began my journey to heal from trauma and addiction in June 2015, I did not yet understand intergenerational trauma and the relationship to addiction. But even from a 5-generation Vashon family that has served our island every generation in community service, I was too traumatized to access service and resources on the island. Luckily for me, someone told me about the traditional Native American practices in healing trauma and addiction, and the success that have been shown with veterans and people diagnosed with PTSD, and took me to the Suquamish Reservation to participate in traditional practices of healing. Thanks to the traditional practices that will be offered at the new treatment center, I was able to heal from intergenerational trauma, continue recovery, and re-engage with the island I love in community service. These traditional practices saved my life, they saved my children's lives, and I am truly grateful. In training and educational classes, I was stunned to find that my island family is not alone in these hidden struggles of intergenerational trauma. Vashon Island has the 4th highest number in all of Washington State for childhood markers in trauma, which is the most predictive of addiction problems. It is with great hope that I welcome this treatment center, that now some of our most vulnerable community members will be able to access the help they need, and that we as an island will work together to make sure that every person and every child receives the care and support that they need.
Stop the fifth one.
Thanks so much, Jessica. I want to introduce, we're going to try something a little different because there's a lot of questions and discussion on this. So we're going to hear, Esther, I think, has a presentation. She's going to share some updates, and then we're going to have a facilitated conversation. And we're really pleased that we have Eve Suskind, a longtime islander who is also the owner of Praxis Associates and has done a lot of consulting and mediation, as well as Shelley Means, Ojibwe Lakota, longtime islander as well, who's been done a lot of work in community health equity, and they are going to help us sort of co-facilitate the conversation to make sure we get to as many people as possible and we sort of keep things moving along smoothly. So I'm going to turn it over to you all to do from here, and Esther to present.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll apologize in advance. I have a soft voice. I'm going to try. I'm going to try for you folks back there. Hello, I'm Shelley Means. Thank you for that introduction. I should also disclose in other parts of my life, I serve on the board of directors for the Seattle Indian Health Board, and have for 8 years. And you know, I'm also a facilitator in lots of spaces, lots of settings. And so I'm just asking that you all trust me tonight to be a part of this conversation. I know that there is a lot of knowledge in this room. There's a presentation coming up that is new information that many of us in the room have not heard. And so in my role in facilitating, I'm just wanting to urge everybody to do some careful listening. You may have come in here with some just some assumptions or some ideas that we hope that you can. Our goal is to be done with this part of the agenda for the Community Council by 8:05. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eve.
Thanks, Shelley. Hi, everybody. I know a lot of you. I'm so happy everyone's here. Yes, we're going to facilitate a conversation, sort of. So we have half an hour, less now. And so here's how it's going to work. We're going to hear for 15 minutes from Esther. And then we'll be able to take some, but not all the questions that are here. We'll be done at 8:05. Can you tell us when it's like 8:03, Diane? Okay, great. And so our collective challenge tonight is to maximize the time we have to hear information from Esther. And it's not really an opportunity for speaking or even really for a lot of questions from the audience. It's really an opportunity to share knowledge, to have the Esther share knowledge with us. And so the way it's going to work is if everybody listens, we'll probably find out that during Esther's presentation, many of your questions will be answered. And so by the time it's time to ask questions, we might have only a few people. And so here's what we'll do. At the end of the presentation, we'll collect names of people who still have questions. Even after the presentation, if you still have questions, we'll collect names on cards, and then Deborah will collect them, we'll put them in a bag, and she'll pick a couple, there'll probably be 3 questions that we get to tonight. And we'll pick them at random. And if your name is called and your question's already been answered, please pass. And the next person will have an opportunity. Please make sure you're asking a question, not making a statement. And when we run out of time, we run out of time. But remember, this is not the last opportunity. This is one of the first opportunities to be in conversation with each other and with the Seattle Indian Health Board about this new facility. And we expect that there will be many, I don't know, maybe nobody. Maybe there will be some people at the end who will have questions still. And so I'm going to give you an email address right now. I'll try to remember to say it again at the end. Let me know if you want me to say it again at the end. Email any questions that don't get answered tonight to thunderbird@sihb.org. I'll say it again at the end. Maybe somebody could put that in the Zoom for the people on Zoom. Oh, no, okay, well. Thunderbird@sihb.org. That's SeattleIndianHealthBoard.org. Okay. Esther.
Thank you so much. So yate everybody, my name is Esther Lucero. I'm Danette on my mom's side and Latina on my dad's side. I think I'm meeting some of you again and some of you for the first time. I just want to say to the council, I'm really grateful that we had a conversation and that you've invited me back and that we can enter into this conversation as good neighbors. And so that's what I want to do. So I want to focus largely on some of the broad category concerns, and then I want to share the new upcoming plans and where we are in our phases of development for the Thunderbird Treatment Center. So let's get to presentation mode. So while she's getting this going, I just want to share with everybody is last night we had a private dinner with our close neighbors. And if you recall, folks who were at the last VCC meeting, I promised to do that first, to meet with our folks who share our borders so that we could actually have a conversation that was meaningful, right? Because obviously they're going to have a little bit more nuanced questions and, sometimes concerns and also, support. And so that's what we did last night. So we hosted our closest neighbors for dinner. You can go to the next slide. And, we entered in a good way. And what that means is we needed to get to know one another. I realized the last time I talked to you, all you can see is residential treatment, right? And you know that I'm responsible because I serve as the president and CEO for the organization that's bringing residential treatment. But you don't know who I am because I'm human. When you only see those things, and perhaps coming with your own understanding and maybe sometimes bias, right? Then you're not seeing me as a whole person. And so last night, when we broke bread together, sharing a meal, we got to know one another. We were able to talk about, we were able to meet one another and, shake hands and say, what is your relationship with this island? I got to see pictures of the pond in the 1980s, right? Ice skating. I got to see the fact that the goats came through and were run through VCC. I got to see it all. I got to hear these beautiful stories, and I began to understand. Some of the things that people are worried about, I began to understand the things that people are hopeful about, and I began to understand my role and responsibility in communicating with you all as we move through this journey together. Okay? So let's talk about those things. First, this is my little family. So I am a mom. So for folks who are really worried about their kids, so am I. I worry about my kid, I worry about yours. Right? Yeah. I worry about our community children. I worry about the generations that are being disrupted by the trauma that was shared so beautifully, right? You have a community member who was so brave in sharing her story. And she is an example of the folks that are going to be at the residential treatment center. And you need to remember that, because the reason I do my work, right? My wife, do you see her? Yeah, she's beautiful, but that's not all she is. She's a nurse practitioner, right? I learned that we had a psych nurse practitioner that's one of our neighbors. She's done really intense work, really powerful work. We have folks who work within healthcare as one of our neighbors, as our neighbors. So my wife and I, when we got married, do you know that part of our wedding vows was a commitment to serving our people, especially the folks who are most hurt, most vulnerable, right? Okay, see that little guy right there? He's now 10 years old, and he's stealing my shoes, sometimes my suit jackets. Some of you got to meet him when we did, the event with the arts community. Yeah, the great kid. I want to make sure that kid, right, can live as a strong Native man moving forward. He's Ojibwe, just like Shelley. Okay, so this is what we learned. We have to build relations. And what that takes is that we enter into conversation in a respectful manner, right? We can't come in with anger and just so much frustration. I shared with the group last night, I do understand my role and responsibility as a leader in our community. I also understand that our aunties and our ancestors wrapped me with skin 7 hands thick. And never in my lifetime, in all of the things that I've done, and I've done a lot of hard things, have I had to leverage that skin 7 hands thick until coming to Vashon. Because when we entered a conversation last time, I was expecting to enter in a good way, to be shaking hands and getting to know you all, understanding your children, your families, and who you are and what you care about, what you're passionate about. And I expected that you would do the same with me, because that's how we build relations in the community. And that's not what happened. So I'm here again, trying again, because I believe in healing. We have proof of healing, right? I also understand my responsibility to facilitate that process for healing, and that's why I'm here, right? Serve our people, serve your people, serve generations into the future. Okay, my wife is a nurse practitioner, serving our people as well. All right, so here we go. Building relations. The other thing, and I don't think that I gave this enough power. I heard last night that you all are grieving the loss of VCC. Many of you expected that your end of life would be there, right? That you had parents there. You wanted them close to you. And that was your hope. And I want you to know I understand that. Our elders, there's a huge gap in services. There's housing for our elders. Elders in our community, in our organization, we have an elders drop-in center. 40% of them experience housing insecurity. So I'm sharing that with you because I want you to know that I get that. I understand that. It was funny because one of our folks last night, she said to me, Esther, we are grieving that loss. She said, my husband and I, we were planning to be here. And then she turned to me, this was at the end of the night, and she said, and you didn't do it. You didn't take it away. She said, I know that now. And I said, yes, I didn't. And I want to help you in the future. If that is a need within this community, as a federally qualified health center, we are really well positioned to help with senior housing. Senior housing is difficult because it's hard to sustain. But if you're a federally qualified health center, there's a program called the PACE program, right? Where we can leverage our healthcare status to be able to sustain that housing environment with complete wraparound services for our elders. If we talked about that problem together, we could work on it together. That's what being in relationship means. We don't have to agree, right? But if we're respectful to one another, we can lend our gifts, our talents, to solve the problem. I've seen you all do that together. Obviously, Councilmember Mosqueda has seen that in you all, right? And I'm here to join that. All right, so that was a really important thing. The other thing is I heard a lot of fear, right? I heard people say, I am terrified. And what happened in that experience of fear is we recognize that each one of us comes from our own experience of trauma, right? For some folks, it's like, wow, I've experienced addiction in my family. And if that person that I know in my family is going to be in Thunderbird, I am terrified. I'm terrified for myself and I'm terrified for my children. And so what I realized in that moment was, wow, I have to be responsible for greeting you in that way that recognizes your trauma. Because I'm not here to re-traumatize folks. And what I also recognize in that moment is that I have a responsibility to help you all understand that you're safe, right? And that I care about that safety and take responsibility for that. So I spent a lot of time with our behavioral health officer, right? Dr. Gallagher, who helped me understand that, yes, we have responsibility. We are going to have children on site. And what that means is it requires us to allow folks to come in who are way lower risk, meaning no violent crimes, right? Sexual assaults, like those types of things will be assessed and vetted before they are allowed to enter into Thunderbird Treatment Center. Additionally, if there are mental health challenges, it has to be managed. These cannot be folks who refuse to take their meds, right? We are not doing detox at this facility. That is not where we are. These are people who are already moved through detox and who are voluntarily entering into treatment, right? So I was asked, are there going to be some court mandates? Sure, there are court mandates, but the assessments still apply. We're still talking about the same folks who would be entering into Thunderbird Treatment Center. So then I was asked, well, what happens if they don't want to finish treatment, right? Because you guys have all heard about the recidivism rates, which were the best in the state, right? And we still have a percentage. It takes several times sometimes to get in to live a life of sobriety. Our process is not that they just go running out the door. You have to be referred into the program. Sometimes if it's private pay, right, like many of you, as we had that question as well, private pay would be referred by your primary care provider. So we would be contacting the referent and making arrangements for you to get back to where you came from. We do that through case management. And if you complete the program, we have peer after support. Like that is our responsibility. We have a greater responsibility because we're on an island, okay? Now, for folks that are court mandated, we work with their probation officers, parole officer, right? To get them back to where they came from. For folks that are referred through our tribal communities, we work with their case managers and their referents to get them back to their communities. It's not that they just go running out the door. That's not the way this works. Okay? So here, low risk, we have responsibility for getting folks home when they don't want to complete the program. Clear? We have children on site. We have a responsibility to making sure the environment is safe for them, which makes it safe for your community. The other thing I heard was, I don't want to have to lock my doors. I've never worried about locking my doors. Then I also heard, except I started because I had somebody camping out on my lawn. Right? And what I'm saying about that, the reason I bring that up is because what you are worried that we're bringing here is already here. And so what we are bringing, and we need to think about it this way, is the solution to those folks that you're already seeing camping on your lawn, a place for them to go to heal in a model that works. Okay? So that's what I heard. Concerns over overburdening Vashon resources. Yeah, and I get that. Transportation is a huge issue, right? And I told you that I haven't solved that problem yet. I'm working actively on it. So grateful to hear Teresa Mosqueda's progress. She is definitely one of our partners, state partners. We also have tribal partners in addressing transportation needs. We have our own resources. So I haven't solved that problem yet, and I'm not going to share it until I do, right? That's one of the reasons I have not communicated every single move, because I want to make sure what I tell you is true. And sometimes it's scary to share information when it's in process because people misinterpret and then it gets spread, that old telephone game. You know, even last night we heard, you said that Vashon people they would have to go to Seattle to access the services. That's not what I said. What I said was King County handles the assessment to be placed into the program. This is for Medicaid folks. For private pay, you go to your own doctor. They refer you. You don't have to go to Seattle for that. What I'm saying is we don't have authority over the way that assessment is done. If you're a tribal person, we do. We can work with your tribal referent. That's what I said, not that Vashon doesn't have access and that you have to go to Seattle. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm very careful about sharing things until I know what the real answer is. All right. And so we are a self-contained unit. So one of the concerns was around social services. Our whole program is designed to provide health and human services. In the beginning, we will do some of those health services through our mobile unit. But our plan for phase 2 in the future is adding clinic and pharmacy so that we can do those things, not just for our residents, but also for the folks that live on Vashon, okay? But that's a phase 2. We're not there yet. All right, communication. So we had somebody come, it was a member of local press who wanted to be at this meeting and said to me, I said, no, this is for our neighbors. We're having a private meeting. Well, you take public funds. We have authority. We can be here. We need to be able to hear this. I want to be clear about the money. Let's be clear about the money. Yes, we did receive a federal allocation of $5 million. Could not be used for purchase and acquisition. Yes, we received a $3 million allocation from the state. Also not used for purchase and acquisition, only used for renovation. We bought this property with our money. We are a private property owner. Let's remember that. Okay, that's why I wanted to enter as a neighbor. That's why I want to enter as a neighbor. All right, so, and we are planning on building a website so that you can, now that our plans are done, right? I mean, all of this is happening before we've even been able to secure our architect or to, secure our landscape architect or even have designs or even finish our vision. We hadn't even been able to do that. We have now, so I'm willing to share all of that with you today. Right? So give us a minute to get it done and we will share the information. I promise. I'm not trying to hide anything. We're just moving through the process. We do have a lot more hoops to jump through, right? when you're using federal dollars for renovation, you have to go through a vetting process, right? That's pretty extensive to select the right folks to provide the service. And that takes a while to do that. All right, so service availability, I think I just addressed that. And concerns for potential disruption from the construction process. Now I got a really good idea of what people are worried about. I guess lighting for the last construction, noise, right? Hours of construction, those things are of real concern to our local neighbors. And so those are some things in terms of like surveillance and the property lines. We already have plans to work with the individuals who will be impacted. And the other things we're going to work with them to make sure that we're not impeding on their ability to just function daily. Those are the things I learned.
James, we could have a race down here. That's an excellent idea. I don't want to take part.
Okay, so I hear somebody likes the website idea. Yeah, that actually came from our construction project management team, and we do have a communications team, to be able to implement that. So stay tuned. We just established the Thunderbird info at sihb.org so people can, send questions. We will likely categorize those. I'm not going to respond to every single one of those, I'll be honest, but I am going to look at things that create themes, and then that's the way I will approach you all, just like I did with the last night's neighbors. Okay, let's keep going.
We only have 5 minutes total.
I know, I got you. Let's go, let's go. Let's just get to the designs. I want you to see what we're building because it will give you an idea. Keep going. This is what the new entry will look like. This was important to us because, as Native people, welcoming people in a good way, with love, letting them know that they are home is really important. So we are trying to duplicate that Coast Salish way of doing that, right? This looks similar to what a longhouse looks like. We have an opportunity to work with artists on the welcoming poles. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. This is the lobby. Yeah, so we had to talk about that last night. Like, what kind of treatment do we want? We want the best of the best. We want people to walk in and feel like they've entered into the finest spa they've ever approached. Because that's what our people deserve, all people. And I was just chuckling with my team this morning. I was like, not just celebrities, our people deserve that. And last night, folks chuckled, and then they saw it, and they were like, wow, we can do that. Where people are met with love, kindness. We can take their clothes, we can launder their clothes, we give them a robe, we give them an opportunity to shower and just welcome them in a good way. Okay? This is what it looks like. Next slide. Now I'm only showing you this because not much of the building changes except for we needed a place for ceremony. And so that's what this round area is that you see. Keep going. Oh, the front is, let me orient you. The front is there. Yeah. Okay, next. Yes, except we're not taking, the dining will, well, let me just point this out really quickly. So all of the pregnant and parenting people will have 15 beds dedicated to serving pregnant and parenting people. That will be on the backside. They have their own independent entrance. They have their own independent dining area. You see that front area over there? So that section, there will be 15 beds for VIPs. So it'll be lower floor and upper floor. They too have their own private dining area, right? Own separate programs. The rest is for adult residential, right? In the upper left-hand corner there, those are all the counseling offices. We have traditional medicine here. We have a nurse's office just in case we have to do, triage folks. Like that's something that's there. And that will be ceremonial space. Okay, keep going. One more. This is these were our guiding principles. Like bringing nature into healing was important. So biophilic design was a top priority. Trauma-informed design was a top priority. So the rooms, that's a sample of what the rooms will look like. We will have medicines actually impaneled into the walls. Even the lighting is designed to reduce trauma. Okay, next slide. This is the ceremonial space. Now, typically we hold ceremony where you enter in from the east. We couldn't have that sort of an entrance. So we have a skylight that helps us understand the position of the light so we know where to be for ceremony. Go one more. This is what it looks like inside. Yeah, so inside you have benches. We can host up to like 96 people in ceremony here. With the skylight up top, we'll have smart screens on the side so we can have telehealth with as many practitioners, even around the globe. Yeah, and when we're not using the smart screens for that, then we can highlight Native artists, right? Because remember, we're not trying to do some weird pan-Indigenous thing. It's not some hokey thing. It is trying to highlight as many different tribal communities as we possibly can. So the relatives we serve get that individualistic experience so they recognize their region, at least. Sometimes they'll get to meet with a healer from their own tribe. That would be amazing, right? And so building that access is what's key. Keep going. I know I'm behind. I'm so sorry. I'm trying. This is the covered play area for the kids, where they'll have like a play structure, a labyrinth, those types of things. Keep going. And this is the land. So our ceremonial space will be on that side. What side is that, Shelley? It's a north side. On the north side, you see a sports court there because basketball is big in Indian country, but it's also activity. Healthy activity is important to healing. Our sweat lodge is there with our cold plunge, changing rooms, parking there. The other parking will stay. We're not touching the wetlands. We will not be fencing through the wetlands. That's really important. We will have a fence around the rest. The fence, so I want to caution folks, we're going to be putting up the construction fence, which is chain link and then it's covered. And then after that will be wood with lattice, just like you all are held to, okay? We have a design now that we are officially going to be called Thunderbird Treatment Center. We are working on a design for the gates that will include Thunderbirds, okay? Likely metal gates. I will have a water feature out front. What I'm looking at are those rain drums, right? Those types of things. So that's what we're looking at. And I think that's it. Yeah, and so I am open, to some questions, but I just want you to know what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, so Diane tells us we can take another 5 minutes. So if you have a question, please write your name. Don't write your question, that'll take too long. Just write your name, raise your hand so Deborah can give you a piece of paper to write your name on. And if you're on Zoom, what are we doing for the Zoom folks? Raise your hand and Diane or somebody is writing down those names. So just remember so here, while the papers are being handed out and people are writing down their names, that remind you what will happen. So our goal is to get through as many questions as we can in 5 minutes. And we ask you to ask your question respectfully and with curiosity and listen to the response. We also ask you, if you already heard the answer to your question, please don't ask it. And pass, so pass if your question has been addressed. And if you still have questions at the end, them to thunderbird.info@SI. And all the people who have questions?
You just need to put your name on there, not the question. Oh, right. Yeah, just your name.
So what we'll do is, Diane, can we go till 8:15? Or till 8, what time can we go till?
I would like to know if the members of the community council would like to extend our meeting a little bit so that we can continue this conversation.
Yes. Till what
Okay.
time then?
8:15.
Till 8:15. Okay, so we'll try to be quick with your questions when your name is called.
And did we get everybody from Zoom? Okay. Just write your name. Not the question, just your name.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. The first one is Laura Carrier. On Zoom? Okay.
Yeah, Laura,
Hi.
you're on Zoom.
Hi, thank you. How many employees do you expect to have at this facility at any one time, and where do you expect them to live, and how will they get to work?
Yeah, so we plan to have about 60 employees. You have to remember that that's about 3 shifts, right? So they're not all at once. We are looking into employee housing, which is really important. We also are building staff because, I mean, you have to remember, we operate other clinics. And so there's a lot we can do through telemedicine to not overburden again, like ferries or jobs for folks who live on the island. So it's a multi-pronged thing. So yeah. Next question.
Yes.
Hi.
Stand up so they can hear you. Just, nope, it's on.
Okay. Hi, I'm Julie Whitaker. I live 3 houses down. I have the big farm on the other side of the community care center. I am concerned about 3 things. The trail for the land trust access, safety, in that, you know, you open the gate and they go out and they decide to go live in my barn, which you address to a point, but there is the concern about our limited resources for police, or if something happens, you know, how soon can anybody get there? And in the meantime, they're in my property. And the other thing, which probably is the most important, well, not most, but property value. I put everything I had into getting this property. It's my retirement. It's my nest egg. And if my property value drops, I'm, you know, I'll be a resident. Because it's a huge difference between being next door to a community care center that cares for the elderly than for being next to a quote drug rehab center. And I don't mean that derogatorily at all.
Yeah.
So,
I hear
all
your
right.
question.
I
So-
don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just
Yeah.
very fearful.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I hear that. So yeah, can anybody guess what the 3rd largest employer became during COVID time in the nation? Private security. Yeah. Our public safety systems are under-resourced and are struggling. I get that. Guess what we did? We hired private security, armed security. And so we've done that at our other clinics. So I guess the thing is, like, we're worried that we're going to take from Vashon community and Vashon community resources, when really what we're doing is adding. We are a well-resourced organization. We are smart. We function well, right? We have been able to pick up the slack of public safety in Seattle for Seattle Police Department and do that well. So that's what I have to say about safety. As far as property values, you have to remember we operated a residential treatment program in a Seattle neighborhood for 35 years. Those property values went up. We also never had, in 35 years, an incident of criminal activity within that neighborhood. Yes. And so, the other thing you should know at the Seattle Indian Health Board is we make data-driven decisions. Right? If we acted on feelings, if I acted solely on feelings, man, we'd all be wild right now, I'm telling you. So we like to make decisions somewhere between our head and our hearts, like our stomach. So it's right in here. That means data. Okay, next question. I'm sorry, what about the trail still exists? It will have a gate, only one direction. And so part of our treatment program is to enter into nature. Right? And so there are phases in treatment, right? Some phases you're not allowed to leave at all. Other phases you're not allowed to leave without a chaperone. When you're close to graduation, you have a requirement, to volunteer to acquire work skills, to do interviews, like those types of things. So those are the moments folks will be able to leave when they're already ready to move on. And I also got to ask, like, how can community participate? So we will host graduations where community will be invited, because sobriety is about collective responsibility, and you all will be able to lift them up, send them off with love, let them know that you are cheering for them in their new life. Okay, next question.
Somebody put their card in. I assume this is what, Marley Parabeck?
Yes, thank you so much. I better make it good. Hello, I'm Dr. Marley Parabeck, and I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Yes, woo woo. On Vashon Island, of course. So I love Vashon, and as do all of us. That's why we're here tonight, to ask questions and get them answered. And you did an amazing job of answering them, because I had 4 or 5, but now I'm down to 2. So that's pretty good. Formerly, I was a psychiatrist at Yakima Nation, so good to see you again. I have my own private practice on the island.
What's the question? Oops.
Because I am the only psychiatric prescriber on Vashon for 10,000 people. And it is my honor and my privilege to serve the people of Vashon. And I also have a contract at Vashon Youth and Family Services. I think that is something going forward that my question to you is, when will there be a community meeting individually with Vashon Youth and Family Services and those who work as therapists and myself as the prescriber? Because truly, to be community partners, we need to be engaged in that, because mental health, when we talk about resources, we don't have 24/7 medical, we certainly don't have 24/7 mental health, and we want to be a part of that for the people on island and then within your community center. So my question is, when are you going to call me?
Yeah. So we got that question from a lot of folks. When we are at the phase of implementing programming, we will begin to reach out to community. I mean, right now we have just been buried in design, construction design, right? Like how to get enough people in. I mean, getting the funding in. I mean, you think that they say that there's a federal allocation for $5 million that's going to show up in your bank, and that's not the way it works. Like, we barely got it. So it takes a lot of time to move forward. So when we are ready to implement programming, I'm going to send you folks that are much smarter than me, right? Folks who do that programming every day. We have a brilliant team of people, everywhere from psychiatrists to psychologists, substance use disorder professionals, right? We have peer coaches, we have community health workers, we have a whole team of people that you're going to want to work with. And so when we are at that phase, yes. And I have received information from, the social community groups, all of that. And so I will make my rounds, but I need to do it at the right timing, So yes, thank you. And I can't believe you have 2 psych nurse practitioners on this island. I mean, not prescribing. The other one works somewhere else, but I met her last night. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, everybody, thank you all.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Now, I know a lot of you have come just for that part of the meeting. Please stay. We have other things that are very interesting. And if you do decide to leave, come on back. We do it every month. The 3rd Thursday of every month, we have our meetings. Yeah, we're just wait for folks to leave here.
Guess what happens with the
Okay. We're going to continue on now. If you want to talk, step outside.
For the treatment center? I think those are questions you can send them.
I need a bouncer.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think water should be an important thing on this island.
Come on, people, let's get on to our lifeline, the ferries.
Adding more people there, possibly putting housing, extra housing on there, and that's washing machines. Those are great questions to water.
Okay, the meeting is. So. We're going to continue the meeting now. Solutions.
For everybody's here, my guess is that the Zoom went down at the Land Trust building. I expect they'll be back soon.
The Zoom went down at the Land Trust building, and it's back.
I'm so glad.
Was the meeting scheduled for in a specific time window that would cause Zoom to shut down?
No, I don't believe that's the problem. It does occasionally go in and out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the input, Kevin.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm sorry we lost our Zoom here at the Land Trust building, but we are back. And everybody's back together. And Amy Dreyer, the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. And by the way, I want to thank Amy because Amy, the Chamber of Commerce, is the organization that's organized this Saturday's event with all the nonprofits. So thank you so much for the work you're doing in pulling the nonprofits together on this island. So come on in where they can see you a little bit, Amy. As you stand right here, people can hear you, and then.
Do you want to read the resolution, or you want me to
just talk about IFA, and then Ben's going to read the resolution.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy with the Chamber of Commerce and Islanders for Ferry Action. And there's for sure a joke in here about the ferries and like a PR maneuver, like they should always follow the Indian Health Board, maybe, or right? Like in some way, there's like, so like, I know they're just like, wait, how do we clear the room before we start talking, right? Yeah, so Islanders for Ferry Action, we are excited along with Councilwoman Mosqueda and Representative Alvarado and Representative Fitzgibbon and Senator Wynn about the wins that we got for the boats. So the water taxi, midweek right now, right? Weekday right now, but expansion. And the other big thing, in addition to all the crewing funding and being able to upstaff the crew, right? So when one person calls out, they don't have to cancel an entire run. So millions and millions for upstaffing the crew, retention, moving crews through, is that $169,000, a seemingly very small number for a second scheduler planner at Washington State Ferries. And the commitment from the ferries has been that if they got another planner, they could finally work on fixing the two-boat schedule, right? So our work is far from done. These are very much first steps, but definitely our work is to kind of keep that commitment to fixing the two-boat schedule, because I think we all know it's beyond broken. And getting that fixed is going to move us a long way forward, even as we wait for more boats to come online. So Islanders for Ferry Action, we are kind of just kicking off our work. We are very much planning to be very involved throughout the next year. The next legislative session will be the biennial session, the really big one, essentially. So we are very focused on what the legislature is going to be doing. We're very focused on keeping our eye on that carbon tax in November, right? Because basically, without that carbon tax, the transportation budget for the entire state is going to have a hole the size of Wyoming blown in it, right? And that's very bad news for us. Very, very bad news for anyone who rides a boat. So going to be looking at that and just really kind of continuing the work to mobilize the island and get us all activated and get us engaged with the ferries. So that's kind of what we're doing. And today, we are going to be kind of going around to nonprofits and different community groups and sort of talking to you and asking you to come on board with the Islanders for Ferry Action movement and really get connected and tapped into our really great activism network here on the island. And so Vashon Community Council is getting ready to come on board.
Yes, we want to support the work of Islanders for Ferry Action, and the board has
Right,
agreed
so
to this.
I'm Ben. I'm just going to read this first. I'll be moving to approve it and asking for a second in just a moment. The resolution that would support IFA would be as follows. Whereas the Vashon Island Chamber of Commerce launched the Islanders for Ferry Action, IFA initiative in 2023 to address the growing Washington state. I may have cut off the text here. Ferry crisis. Oh, there we are. Through an advocacy campaign of educational outreach to state and county decision makers. Whereas IFA has rallied Islanders to inventory the effects of the crisis on our community and develop over 50 potential solutions that could help alleviate the crisis, published in the November 2023 community report, quote, "An Island in Crisis Focused on Solutions," end quote. Whereas the Vashon-Maury Community Council is a vital community organization, advancing community voice, empowerment, and action. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors and the Vashon-Maury Community Council supports the Islanders for Ferry Action and their valuable work as a community partner. This resolution in no way commits the council to a specific action or binds the organization financially in any way, but it is a pledge to support the mission and goals of IFA to be expressed in manners suitable to the Vashon-Maury Community Council. Again, I am moving that this resolution be adopted and calling for a second.
Jessica has seconded it. Now, as usual with our organization, we do not vote on these at the same meeting unless it's an emergency action. So it's been moved and seconded. We could have some more discussion if we wish, but it's pretty clear. And then we won't vote on this until next month. This gives the community plenty of time to think about these actions and these motions that we put forth as a community council. Is there any, Carrie Latowski has her hand up. Carrie, go ahead and share. What would you like to say?
And I'm sorry, it's Kari. But anyway, is there a website, something with IFA? Do you have a separate website? Amy, you didn't give it and it's not anywhere that I can see.
Yeah, sure. If you go to VashonChamber.org,
okay.
Right in the header there is Islanders for Ferry Action. And then if you scroll down a little bit, there's a button to click to take action. Or you can also go to VashonChamber.com/Islanders for Ferry Action.
I'm also going to just point out that other ferry dependent communities are also in dire straits. And we did have a ferry community partnership with Bremerton, Bainbridge, and all the ferry dependent communities. If you would like to get in touch with me, or I will get in touch with you, this is more than just our community. Yes, we're very stressed and distressed with this, but it affects all ferry dependent communities. And we came together, we had a rally, we can do it again. And
yeah, for sure. And thank you for that. We absolutely, I think in the next couple of months, we're going to be making some announcements about the direction that Islander for Fair Action is going to go. The one thing we did kind of want to be clear about was biting off what Vashon could chew. And so I think working in coalition is absolutely a way to build power, and that's going to help us get where we need to be as ferry dependent communities in long term. So we're definitely looking to connect with folks around the region.
point of record, it was because Vashon joined the Ferry Community Partnership that we were able to do so much, and we spearheaded them and the entire group to doing this. Our rally in Olympia was because of Vashon. We spearheaded it, and it was done through the Chamber of Commerce. So yay for you guys, and I'll talk to you about that later.
Thank you very much, Kari. All right, so we are running late this evening, so we're going to have to move on now, and we'll discuss and vote on this next month. So now we have another very important topic to discuss, and that is an overnight emergency shelter for this island when the weather is going to get cold again. We can't go next winter without something like this. So we don't have it yet, and Kim Nelson is going to give us a little update on where we're at with working on making this happen.
Alrighty, is this?
Could you stand over there so they can
Sure.
see you a little bit?
Is
Okay.
this live?
Yes, it's live.
All right.
The green is, the light's green, so you're good.
My name is Kim Nelson. I am what's called the disaster lead for
See you.
Vashon Be Prepared.
It's okay.
Okay. I worked for years managing shelters for the American Red Cross in various areas. For the last 19 years, I've been a part of the Community Emergency Response Team. I'm certified as an American Red Cross trainer and as a Community Emergency Response Team trainer, and did consulting and training throughout the Rocky Mountain area and the Pacific Northwest for many years, working with nonprofit organizations. By way of introduction, there's a committee that has formed up to start taking on the problem that it gets very cold and there are people who don't have shelter in our community. It's serious, and we want to change that. We've made some progress. We have a place. The Presbyterian Church has stepped up. They have requested that we get insurance for any activities that would be there. And right now, it looks as if we may have found some funding sources. Just need to figure out how to, what kind of insurance is needed and how to get that together, but that's being researched. I'm going to take the lead on recruiting and training volunteers. In my work with CERT and other places, people have been telling me that they're not quite up to digging folks out of the rubble or that kind of thing that are the activities, say, of a certain person, a registered emergency worker. And so what they, when I tell them that we're going to be, doing some sheltering in the future, they're excited about that. But what we need is people who can work in a shelter that is not just one day when the disaster happens. So if it happens that another group got together cold weather sheltering, it would dovetail very nicely because we would have a cadre of people who are already working on sheltering who know how to do it. And nice thing about REWs or other people, actually REWs, I mentioned registered emergency workers for the state of Washington, they've already had background checks and that kind of thing. So they can just jump in and already be cleared for that kind of work. For the training and management techniques, the disaster plan that's been written up for Vashon Be Prepared uses the management techniques, paperwork, and guidelines of the American Red Cross, because that's pretty tried and true. It's got the legal paperwork. It covers a variety of situations that you see in sheltering. I've been amusing my cohorts on the committee with various exciting things that happen sometimes in the course of running shelters. And the other thing for the major disaster plan is, I know that how the Red Cross situation runs, and if something is set up with people who are trained to their standards and their guidelines and their paperwork is being used, then they are happy to come in and run it after a while. We wouldn't have, that kind of need for just a couple of nights of cold weather. But that's kind of the reason, one of the reasons that for also using the management systems of the American Red Cross and that kind of thing. Gregory Lopez is the American Red Cross representative to small government entities. We're sort of pseudo-government here, and he has said that he will help me with training, and we'll get that here. Vashon Be Prepared has hundreds of cots and blankets. I have the keys right here on my belt, so that's not a problem having those. We're talking with Haven about pets that might be brought in to the shelter, and there are some legal issues with that. One of the small things that's an aside that people might need as supplies are sanitation kits that have, bar soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, that kind of thing, if people have to come in out of the cold all of a sudden. Probably in the future, the group will look for a partner to do the oversight in terms of who calls out the volunteers, what guidelines are there for, well, how cold is too cold, how much weather is too bad, that kind of thing. But it looks good. People are committed and are leveraging resources, and the costs of funding for various things like insurance and that kind of thing are being rallied from various sources on the island. Nonprofits have said that they're interested, and individuals have said that they're interested in helping out. So we'd like to thank them. Some of them are here. And that's about all I have. I just wanted to do a quick update.
Thank you. Are there any questions for her on Zoom or in the audience about this? Okay, well, it'll be wonderful to hear more, and thank you so much. Wow, Vashon Be Prepared, huh? Man. Okay. Next, we have the Vashon Town Planning Committee resolution, and David Vogel, who is on Zoom this evening. Would you take over, David, and tell us about this?
Yes, thank you. The Vashon Town Plan Committee met in response to the proposals put forward by the King County Executive for the amendments to the 2024 King County Comprehensive Plan. Now, for the most part, we did not oppose the changes that they're making. They're trying to clean it up. But in a strange position that they took, they essentially said, we need to create affordable housing for Vashon Island and in particular in the town of Vashon, we have had a special district overlay in the town that was intended to spur the growth of affordable housing, but it has not accomplished that. There has been no affordable housing that's been built in the town of Vashon. Now, that fails to take into account the fact that Water District 19 had a moratorium going during this time, but it also looked at, well, what is there to encourage, the building of affordable housing? And so then they said, well, we're going to allow density bonuses for builders in various rural town areas around the county. And they set a chart of how they would give density bonuses depending on the percentage of the average mean income, what percentage of the income these units are intended for. But then they said, but for Vashon, it has to be 100% affordable housing in order to get a density bonus. So that didn't make sense to the people in the town plan committee, because if you're trying to increase affordable housing, then you should give some kind of bonuses to people who are willing to build it, other than government subsidized housing projects like Vashon Household is able to do, because it would pretty much preclude anyone in the private sector from building affordable housing in the town of Vashon. So in order to address that, what the town plan committee decided was that we would tweak some of the proposals that have already been made in other areas of the county to address Vashon Island specifically. Now, I'm going to share the screen, which will show you what's being done in other areas of the, let's see, in other areas of the
county.
Yeah. And this is the chart that was done for the other areas of the county. And it, let's see now. And it has a limit where in other areas of the county, it wants to have larger developments, so it does not give a density bonus for developments with fewer than 9 units.
David, I'm going to interrupt you briefly. Could you possibly make that bigger for us to, we can't read it.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that right now. Let's see.
On the bottom here, it says page 6 of 9 and the little plus sign.
There we go. There we go. That better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, let's see.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
We
Come
still
back.
have it?
No,
Okay.
it's gone.
It's gone? Oh, okay.
There's just a gray line down the center of the screen now.
Oh, great.
It's
Let's see.
weird because I can see it clearly. Oh,
Okay, let's try that again. Well, what I'm going to do then is just go to the to a screen that would show what we're trying to propose for Vashon, and that would be let's see, over here. So the tweaks
David, stop sharing and do share screen again, because it's not working on our end.
That's what I'm trying right now. Let's see. That doesn't work. Okay. There we are. Okay. Can you see it now? People, can we see it now?
I can.
Yes.
On
Yes.
Zoom.
On
Okay.
Zoom we can.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that you can't see it if you're off Zoom? All right. Well, maybe what I'll do then is just read through it. Okay. In other areas of the county, they are only giving density bonuses for developments with 9 or more units. We wanted to eliminate that requirement on Vashon because we want to encourage smaller developments. So that is one tweak that we would make.
David, one item, I think we've lost the land trust on Zoom again.
Oh, I guess
don't-
that could be why. Yeah.
Yep.
You're
Yep. I don't see him. I don't know if you want to press. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. I'll let you
Well,
decide what to do.
yeah, let's see. What can we do to get them back?
You may want to just continue and let us know what you have,
Yeah.
and when they come back, you
Okay.
can-
I'm on Zoom and I can see it just fine and I can hear Kevin. I mean, I can hear you, Kevin, and I can hear the
Yep,
presenter.
Bunny, we've lost the land trust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem, is the land trust. Okay, well, let me see how I can get back to that then. Maybe no, I don't know if Diane's gonna pick up her phone or not.
No, I think they just have to sort of reboot it, try again to connect.
Okay,
Nothing you can do from this side.
yep,
It's great on this side.
okay. Okay, well, I'll explain it as kind of a warm-up for the rest of these people. Okay, so then the various categories include areas where there are rental at 60% AMI, and this would be the same as in the county, other parts of the county, where the minimum percentage of total units required to be affordable would be 100. If you had 100%, you could get 200% of the density. If you had 20% affordable housing at 60% AMI, you could get a maximum density of 150. 10%, 125%. Then if you go to a lower percentage of AMI, meaning that it's even more affordable, if you have 100%, you still get 200%. At 15%, you would get 150%, a bonus density, and 7% at the 50% mark would give you 125%. What we wanted to encourage too was owner-occupied dwellings in the 80 to 120% AMI range, which is higher than what the county is presently providing for. They limit it to 80%. Now, the 80 to 120% of AMI, that's really middle income. That's the workers that we are trying to encourage building of housing for on Vashon are in the 80 to 120%. And so this would then give a density bonus of 200% for 100%, 150% for 30%, and 125% for 15%. And then also any combination of 80 to 120% owner occupied and 60% of the AMI will also have these density bonuses. So the only tweaks that we really made to the county were that we took out the requirement that there be 9 or more units, and we increased the density bonus from owner-occupied 80% of the AMI to 80 to 120% of the AMI. So it's more inclusive for Vashon for this group. There is also a requirement in the zoning that is being proposed that would limit the height restriction for the town of Vashon to 35 feet. Now, speaking to people who are builders and developers, they say 35 feet is very difficult to work with. But if you make it 3 stories, that gives you a lot more flexibility for building a similarly sized structure, but you can deal with, for example, air conditioning on the roof instead of on the ground, so that you don't have to compress everything within 35 feet to give you the 3 stories. So what we are proposing is not a major change of what the county is doing, except we are trying to bring what's being done in other parts of the county to Vashon and make it better suited for Vashon.
Hey, David, this is Deborah. Our Zoom is very unstable here in the room, but luckily Ben recapped for the people here in the room what you just said. So I think
great.
Both groups have heard it, and we're now using an iPad to at least connect with those folks on Zoom for the last few minutes of the meeting. So we can hear you, but we can't see things.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me know, Deborah.
Okay.
So in any event, what the proposal of the town plan committee is to make the density bonuses available within the town of Vashon for developers. We are not going to be allowing transfer of density credits for Vashon. That is going to be used in other areas of the county, but we don't think it's appropriate for Vashon. And that is where you could say, well, we're not going to build affordable housing here, we'll build it somewhere else, but we want these density bonuses. That's not going to be permitted on Vashon.
Good job, David.
Okay, well, that's been our position all along. We've taken that position, we've been strong on it. But we do think that allowing private developers density bonuses in order to create affordable housing is good for a number of reasons, including the fact that we don't want to have a affordable housing ghetto in the town of Vashon. If you have an area where all of the housing is low income, you don't have integration of people in the community to the same degree.
David, please
Yes.
don't use that. I have a request that you don't use the word ghetto, because it is a very it's a difficult word for people to hear, and we really aren't, that's not what we're talking about.
Okay. Then let's strike that word from the record and just say that it would be an area that would be confined to people of lower income, and there are certain connotations about that sort of a housing condition that are not considered desirable. Okay, to just keep poor people among poor people, or people who do not have the same kind of income, instead of having integration with people of different incomes. When I first moved to Vashon, you had a much greater economic diversity on the island than you have now. And if we were to just confine people of the same income bracket to live in the same locations, it's not the same kind of integration that we've had traditionally on the island. Okay, do I have questions? Oh, I see Carrie Ulatowski has raised her hand. Carrie?
I think this makes a lot of sense. I tell you, I've never been personally in this situation, but I think something else that we need to look at as a whole is the quality of our rentals on the island, and to hold people accountable for what they rent, not the price they rent it for, but the substandard rentals. So that's another topic, but I'd like to see if there's anybody else who's interested in that. I've seen too many myself, and
Well,
they're
Carrie,
afraid to say anything.
Carrie, I think one of the issues there is that in order to enforce housing codes, you would have to rely on county code enforcement. And county code enforcement is very understaffed and underfunded. More so than you'd find, say, Seattle code enforcement, where you have a lot more enforcement of housing issues. I think you don't see as much in the county.
Okay, because these are people who are so afraid once they have rented a house that they're going to be kicked out if they report the substandard living. And maybe that's something we can pursue at a later date, but I'm not kidding you. I'm horrified. And maybe this is something for Teresa Mosqueda.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that's an important issue, and we should pursue it further, but this is not the opportunity at this point.
I agree. I think we need to do something, and I think that your presentation or your edits to the mandatory affordability requirements make total sense to me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I see Andrea Baki's raised her hand. Andrea? Hello? I think you may have to unmute yourself.
David, I have a quick question.
Okay.
The average medium income is, where does that come from? Is that Vashon, King County?
That's King County. You know, it's the numbers that they use for King County. It's probably a statewide number though.
Okay.
Okay, we're running out of time, and we're
All
going
right.
to have another opportunity to do this, because we're just going to move and second this evening and then vote on it in a month.
So then I would move that we adopt the recommendations of the Town Plan Committee, which are essentially to incorporate the mandatory affordability requirements used in other rural areas around the county, with the changes that we eliminate that developments must be 9 or more units, and we are changing the owner-occupied AMI from 80 to 100, both for owner-occupied and for combination of owner-occupied with 60% AMI rentals. And then we would change the height restriction from 35 feet to 3 stories. Those would be the only changes that we are recommending, but we think that they would have an impact for Vashon.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
As a board member, I move for it too.
Okay. Well then.
Seconds.
Okay, so this has been moved and seconded, and we will bring it to the next meeting in April, and we're going to vote on it then. And then it will go
great.
to King County as part of our input to the comprehensive plan.
Great. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, David. And I'm sorry about our technical difficulties this evening. It's we have a really weak Wi-Fi in the.
Is there a way to get a stronger Wi-Fi to the to that area?
I don't know. We'll work on that.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you again. So now we're open discussion. We have Rick Schrum is going to talk to us about zoning change to RE5 in the North End.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate everybody who's stuck around here. So what I want to speak on is a change in this comprehensive plan, which is voluminous, as Teresa Mosqueda said, thousands of pages, I believe, but this is actually a King County Code amendment. So there's a zoning code and what's allowed in all the zones. And so I don't think people are aware that in the RA zones, they're now allowing food stores. And it's a new line item that go into RA 2.5, RA 5, RA 10. So it's sort of cracking the egg of the rural acreage zones, and now it's a whole new category, food store. And it's relevant for Vashon because the only property that's benefiting from this big change, from my perspective, to add food stores, is the Vashon Grange. So there's an effort there, has been an effort there for several years to get a grocery store in there. It started out with going through regular planning process, non-conforming use, and was rejected for all kinds of reasons. It violates the comprehensive plan. It's zoned residential A5, so it has a zoning issue. They were rejected there, then they went into the King County Council 1 year ago and on the docket and were rejected again for the same reasons, but more detailed reasons. A week after that, it came out and showed up in the King County Executive's comp plan, implemented as a zoning change for the whole RA zone, so they're adding a new retail use into the RA zones with a little asterisk on the bottom that you have to be a historic range and you have to be within 1,000 feet of where you can actually legally do that. So within 1,000 feet of a neighborhood business zone. So they shoehorned it in to our zoning code. And I happen to, full disclosure, live next door to this property on two sides. There's King County's a neighbor, and then we're a neighbor. And our bedroom is 40 feet from where this new entrance to this new store is going to be. So there's a both proximal neighbor issue, but a bigger issue. Because people don't know that they're introducing food stores into RA5 with an asterisk. But where could it go next is one question. But beyond that, there are no regulations to regulate time or anything by introducing this into the zone because it never was supposed to be there before. And the other point of opposition is this literally has been rejected twice on the basis of law and judgments of that law. And King County Executive Doc Constantine has put it in his plan, even though it violates all these laws. So it's a real question of the amount of executive power that the King County Executive has in this 10-year plan. So there's a policy question in there as well. And we actually retained a lawyer. They wrote up an assessment. If anybody wants any of this, let me know. A legal evaluation of this. And told us that this is clearly violating all these rules. So that being said, we're allowed to violate rules, evidently. Right? I mean, councils can change laws and do things. But this one violates so many, as well as a judgment of the council. It's being opposed by the neighbors. So there's a lot of momentum there. So we're bringing up this issue. I just was in front of the land use committee yesterday, put this on the table. So if anybody's interested in this more, I would like to give some more details. But finally, what I leave you with is I'm not a NIMBY. I like some form of development on this island. I like that there's restaurants now that I like to go to. I like that there's more activity. It's just my preference. And I live on the north end. I like that it's more dense. I like that it's closer to the fair. So for me, having more ADUs, for instance, on the north end, or density up there, or a food store up there, I'm all for that. I'm a NIMBY TW, not in my backyard this way. So I oppose it on principle, but also in practical sense. But if the King County Executive and the comp plan every 10 years is allowed to give a golden ticket like this and wave their hand across an entire body of law unabashedly, well, then I'd be concerned for this process. And so I'm opposed on two levels and happy to share more. Thank you for the time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Rick. Any questions, folks on Zoom or here in the audience about this for Rick? I'm sure we'll be hearing more at the April 4th meeting where King County will be asking Vashon people to come to the Vashon Center for the Arts for our only in-person meeting with on the comprehensive plan.
What time of day?
5:30.
5:30 in the
5:30 in the evening.
Only an hour, I think.
Yes, it's only an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, talk fast. I'm sorry.
Do you have time for one last remark?
No, we have one, Ben Affolter is on the
I just
agenda.
wanted to say that as of April 1st will be my last official action as a board member. And I would just like to throw out to everyone, I'd like to maybe quote John F. Kennedy when he said, ask not what your community can do for you, but what can you do for your community? So I strongly recommend that if you're out there and you're interested, do something for your community and show up and get on the board.
So yes, thank
Thanks,
you
John,
so
for your
much,
service.
John. Thank you very, very much. John has served as our treasurer, and we do have time for your one more comment.
Yeah, I found a website in February that talks about where the migrants are going in the country, state by state. Wyoming has the fewest, California has the most. Washington State is number 12. We have, as of February 24th, we have 346,000 migrants coming to Washington State. They have had 120,000 births, and they're putting 135,000 children in our public schools. Okay? You can roll that over. Cost money.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have to be real careful there because Eastern Washington, I'm guessing 30% of the population there are migrant agrarian workers. So you've got to factor that in. That these people are, but these are farm workers that come in, and if it wasn't for them, the state of Washington wouldn't have the agrarian products that they have. So I get that part.
Okay, so thank you very much. You don't have a microphone anymore, so, and it's time for the meeting to end. So you both got a chance to speak.
No more public comment?
To this issue. No, we're after 9 o'clock, the meeting ends at 9 o'clock.
What happened to committee reports?
We don't have any committee reports this evening. Okay, so next meeting will be Thursday, April 18th at 6:30, right after the, April 18th at 6:30. We're going to mingle again with refreshments. Topics again, the comprehensive plan, a vote on the Ferry resolution, a vote on the resolution on the Vashon Town development for the King County Comprehensive Plan. Meeting adjourned, everybody. See you next month. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say really quick, fast thinking and getting solutions done during all of that for you. That was cool. You were great.
Thank you.
Jessica.
I think it really set the tone. Thank you.
That was my first.